For centuries, it's hovered at the edge of history, a silent witness, an impossible photograph, and one of the most intensely studied artifacts on Earth. The Shroud of Turin. It's a simple length of linen cloth that carries the faint, ghostly image of a crucified man. For millions, this cloth is a direct connection to the pivotal moment of the Christian faith, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. For others, it's the most clever and enduring forgery ever created. The debate has raged for generations, pitting faith against science and history against skepticism. Scientific tests have been run, theories have been floated, and yet the mystery has only deepened. But now, in the 21st century, a new and powerful investigator has entered the arena. A mind of pure logic, capable of seeing patterns and details completely invisible to the human eye. This new investigator is artificial intelligence. Bold claims are now surfacing that AI is finally starting to crack the code of the shroud. That by analyzing high-resolution scans of the cloth, it has found details hidden within the fibers that some researchers say align perfectly with the biblical accounts of the crucifixion. Some say these findings are strengthening the faith of millions and forcing experts to rethink everything. But has AI really found evidence of Jesus? Or has it just added a new complex chapter to this ancient enigma? Today, we're launching an investigation, from a centuries-old mystery to the frontier of digital analysis, to find out what the algorithms are actually telling us. For centuries, it's been called the world's most sacred and controversial relic, a silent witness to a 2,000-year-old story, the Shroud of Turin. Science has tried and failed to definitively unlock its secrets. But what if the key wasn't meant for microscopes, but for machines? Recently, researchers unleashed advanced artificial intelligence on high-resolution scans of the cloth. What they claim to have found hidden in the fibers is now bolstering the faith of millions and forcing experts to rethink everything they thought they knew. The story of the Shroud of Turin, as we know it, bursts into recorded history in the 1350s in the small town of Liry, France. A local knight, Geoffroy de Charny, presented the cloth for veneration, claiming it was the authentic burial shroud of Christ. The image it bore was haunting, the full-length front and back impression of a naked man, with wounds consistent with a brutal crucifixion. Yet almost immediately, controversy erupted. In 1389, the local bishop, Pierre d'Arcis, wrote a blistering memo to the Pope, denouncing the shroud as a fake, and even claiming to know the artist who had cunningly painted it. From that moment on, the shroud has lived a dual life. For believers, it was the Holy Shroud, a sacred relic that survived fires, wars, and the passage of time, eventually finding its permanent home in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, in 1578. For skeptics, it was a piece of medieval artistry, a masterful one, but a fake nonetheless. For centuries, the debate was largely a matter of historical interpretation and faith. Then, in 1898, everything changed. An amateur photographer named Secondo Pia was given permission to photograph the shroud. When he developed the photographic plates, he was stunned. The image on his negative wasn't a ghostly smudge, but a clear, detailed, positive portrait of a man's face filled with pathos and dignity. He realized the shroud itself acted like a photographic negative. This inexplicable property catapulted the shroud into the modern age of scientific inquiry. How could a medieval forger have created a perfect photographic negative centuries before the invention of photography? The 20th century saw an explosion of scientific interest. In 1978, a team of 33 scientists, the Shroud of Turin Research Project, STURP, was granted unprecedented access to the cloth. After 120 hours of intensive, non-destructive testing, their conclusion was startling. They could find no trace of paint, pigment, or dye. The image, they determined, was the result of a chemical change in the linen fibers themselves, a rapid dehydration or oxidation. They concluded the image is an ongoing mystery. But the mystery took another dramatic turn in 1988. 3 of the world's leading radiocarbon dating laboratories were given samples from the shroud. Their results seemed to deliver a fatal blow to the cloth's authenticity. They unanimously dated the linen to a period between 1260 and 1390 AD, precisely the era when it first appeared in France. The case seemed closed. The shroud was, scientifically speaking, a medieval artifact. However, the debate didn't die. Proponents of authenticity immediately questioned the result. They argued the sample was taken from a corner of the shroud that might have been repaired in the Middle Ages or contaminated by centuries of handling, smoke from fires, and bacteria. While the mainstream scientific consensus has largely held that the 1988 dating is the most reliable evidence for the shroud's age, the door to doubt remained ajar. It was a stalemate of data, a clash of interpretations, with no clear path forward. The world needed a new way to see. Decades after the carbon dating controversy, technology has taken a massive leap forward. We now have a tool that can process information, recognize patterns, and analyze data on a scale that surpasses human capability. Artificial intelligence. For researchers of the shroud, AI represents a new hope, a non-destructive, potentially unbiased observer that can re-examine the relic in ways previously unimaginable. So how does AI analyze a piece of ancient linen? It's not about asking a machine, "Is this Jesus?" Instead, scientists use machine learning algorithms for specific tasks. The first is advanced image analysis. AI can be trained on millions of images to detect anomalies, enhance faint details, and identify patterns that are statistically significant but invisible to our eyes. When applied to ultra-high-resolution scans of the shroud, these algorithms can digitally reduce the noise from centuries of damage, water stains, and scorch marks, aiming to reveal a clearer underlying image. The second task is forensic pattern recognition. AI can meticulously scan the image for evidence of trauma. It can identify, count, and measure markings on the body, comparing their shape, size, and distribution to historical artifacts and medical knowledge of crucifixion. It can also analyze blood-stain patterns with a precision that forensic science of the past could only dream of, determining directionality and flow in a way that might distinguish real wounds from painted ones. Third, AI is used for complex data correlation. The shroud isn't just an image, it is a repository of microscopic data, including pollen, dust, and biological markers. AI algorithms can cross-reference vast databases, for example, to analyze the thousands of pollen grains found on the cloth and map their potential geographical origins. Perhaps the most fascinating application of AI is in understanding the shroud's most baffling feature, its three-dimensional information. Long before AI, scientists discovered that the shading of the image corresponds to the distance between the cloth and the body it might have covered. Today, AI takes this to a whole new level. By processing the intensity values of every single pixel, AI algorithms can build breathtakingly detailed 3D reconstructions of the man in the shroud, allowing researchers to examine his features and injuries in virtual space. The introduction of AI isn't about replacing faith with machines. It's about applying one of the most advanced logical tools humanity has ever created to one of its most profound and enduring mysteries. The goal is to see if this new form of intelligence can perceive a truth that has eluded us for centuries.
This book is your beginner's guide to understanding Scripture. Find peace, build relationships, and discover purpose in today's world. Ready to decode the Bible? Find Bible Decoded available on Amazon now.
If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos. As artificial intelligence began to sift through the mountains of data encoded on the Shroud, a series of remarkable claims emerged, painting a picture that supporters say is impossible to explain as a simple medieval forgery. The first claim revolves around the Shroud's three-dimensional properties. AI-enhanced analyses have confirmed and expanded upon the original 3D findings. When algorithms translate the image intensity into a topographic map, the result is a geometrically coherent human form. A painting has no inherent depth information. Its shading is an artistic illusion. The Shroud's image, however, behaves like a distance map. This property is so unusual that its origin is hotly debated. Proponents ask, how could a medieval forger have encoded 3D data into a 2D cloth using a principle that wouldn't be understood for another 600 years? Building on this, AI has been used to perform a kind of digital forensic examination. Some researchers claim that pattern recognition algorithms have identified and mapped the wounds with incredible precision. One analysis reportedly shows over 100 scourge marks across the back, shoulders, and legs, consistent in shape with a Roman flagrum, a whip tipped with bone or metal. The wounds appear in two distinct directions, suggesting the victim was struck by two people, one on either side. Then there is the head. Some interpretations, aided by digital analysis, suggest the blood flows on the forehead and scalp map out a helmet of thorns, rather than the simple circlet often depicted in art. The argument is that the puncture wounds and resulting blood drips are consistent with a cap made of sharp, thorny branches being pressed onto the head, a method of torture described in the Gospels. The analysis of bloodstains has yielded further intriguing claims. A 2017 study reported the discovery of nanoparticles of creatinine and ferritin scattered in the blood. These substances are found in high levels in the blood of individuals who have suffered extreme, violent trauma. While controversial, proponents of this finding argue that this is a biological signature of torture, not something a medieval artist would or could have known to include. Finally, there is the ultimate question: how was the image formed? This remains the Shroud's deepest secret. The image is incredibly superficial, affecting only the very top microfibers of the linen threads. Some scientists have proposed a radiation burst hypothesis, the idea that the image was seared onto the cloth by a brief, intense burst of energy. A paper by Thomas McAvoy, using AI-like pattern recognition tools, argued that the image's characteristics are consistent with a radiation-based event. While speculative, this theory aligns with the belief that the image was created at the moment of the resurrection. Taken together, these digitally assisted claims suggest an artifact of bewildering complexity. For believers, this is not a list of anomalies. It is a catalogue of evidence. For those who hold the shroud to be authentic, these digital findings are not just scientific curiosities, they represent a powerful convergence of data and biblical testimony. When the claims from shroud analysis are laid alongside the gospel accounts of the Passion, the parallels are striking. The Gospel of John describes the risen Jesus appearing to his disciples, showing them his hands and his side. The wounds were central to his post-resurrection identity. The shroud presents these wounds with what appears to be forensic clarity. Analysis of the bloodstains shows a large wound in the wrist area, not the palm, which aligns with modern understanding that crucifixion nails would need to be driven through the wrist to support the body's weight. Medieval art almost universally depicts nails through the palms, a detail a forger from that era would have likely copied. The image on the shroud, however, seems to show the anatomically correct placement. Similarly, the gash in the man's side, between the 5th and 6th ribs, corresponds to the account in John 19, verse 34, where a Roman soldier pierces Jesus' side with a spear. Some researchers interpret findings of blood serum separate from clotted blood on the shroud as evidence consistent with this post-mortem piercing. The scourging is described brutally but briefly in the Gospels. The mapping of over 100 whip marks gives a silent, graphic testimony to the severity of this flogging. The crown of thorns is often imagined as a simple wreath, but the blood patterns on the shroud's head suggest a much more torturous device, a full cap of thorns pressed down, causing dozens of puncture wounds. This detail, brought into sharper focus through analysis, aligns with the historical reality of Roman soldiers mocking a king. Even the burial is referenced. The Gospels specify that Jesus' body was bound in linen cloths. The presence of pollen grains on the shroud, which some analyses have identified as originating from plant species native to the Jerusalem area, is seen by supporters as powerful circumstantial evidence placing the cloth in that specific location and time. For many Christians, this isn't about science proving the Bible. Rather, it's seen as a way to uncover layers of physical evidence that resonate with spiritual truths. It transforms the shroud from a passive object of veneration into an active text, where every fiber and bloodstain seems to echo the words of the Gospels. It reinforces the core belief that the faith is not based on an abstract myth, but on a real, historical event. Just as it seems technology might be tipping the scales, other advanced analyses have emerged that point in a completely different direction. Instead of solving the mystery, technology has made it even more profound by providing powerful, new arguments for the skeptics. The most significant challenge remains the 1988 radiocarbon dating, which placed the cloth firmly in the Middle Ages. While proponents have long argued about sample contamination, this remains the most definitive dating evidence from a mainstream scientific perspective. Now, new 3D analysis appears to support this medieval timeline, not by dating the cloth, but by questioning the image itself. In studies published around 2024 and 2025, Brazilian 3D designer Cicero Moraes used digital modeling to test how a linen cloth would actually drape over a three-dimensional human body. His simulations showed that when a cloth settles over the complex curves of a face, the resulting contact points create a heavily distorted and wide image. This is not what we see on the shroud, which is surprisingly proportional, almost like a portrait. More Eyes then ran another simulation. What if the cloth wasn't draped over a real body, but pressed onto a shallow sculpture, a bas-relief, like those on medieval tombs? The result was astonishing. The image generated from the bas-relief was clear, proportional, and a near-perfect match for the image on the shroud. Moraz concluded that the image is far more consistent with an artistic rubbing from a medieval sculpture than an imprint from a real human corpse. This groundbreaking work suggests the shroud's most mysterious feature, its portrait-like quality, is not evidence of a miracle, but a telltale sign of sophisticated medieval artistry. This forgery hypothesis is bolstered by other analyses that have identified traces of pigments like red ochre on the cloth, consistent with materials used by medieval painters, though these findings are also debated. Furthermore, controversies around other evidence, like the pollen grains, persist. Critics point out that the pollen could be the result of later contamination, as the shroud was displayed over centuries, and there is no scientific consensus that the pollen definitively proves a first-century Jerusalem origin. The result is a fascinating paradox. One set of digital analyses highlights the image's unique properties as evidence of its authenticity. Another set of equally sophisticated analyses argues that these very same properties are evidence of a medieval forgery. Technology hasn't provided a simple answer. It has armed both sides of the argument with new, compelling, and utterly contradictory evidence. We began this journey with the claim that AI might be finding proof of Jesus in the fibers of the Shroud of Turin. We've traveled from its first appearance in medieval France, through the firestorm of carbon dating, and into the world of artificial intelligence and 3D modeling. And where have we landed? Not at a simple conclusion, but at the heart of an even deeper mystery. One branch of analysis presents a compelling case for authenticity, pointing to details of 3D information, crucifixion wounds, and biological markers that seem to align with the gospel accounts. These findings have undoubtedly strengthened the faith of many. Yet another branch of advanced modeling argues the opposite with equal force, suggesting the image is the product of a masterful artistic creation from a medieval bas-relief. Artificial intelligence has not been the final judge we might have hoped for. It hasn't handed down a definitive verdict. Instead, it has acted as a powerful magnifying glass, intensifying every feature of this enigmatic cloth, making the arguments for both authenticity and forgery more compelling than ever before. The shroud refuses to be a simple answer. It insists on remaining a profound question.
Feeling anxious or disconnected? Ready for a deeper faith journey designed just for you? Discover Bible Study for Black Women. This guide nurtures faith, strength, and growth week by week. Overcome fear and connect with God. This empowering journey is waiting. Find Bible Study for Black Women on Amazon today and start building unshakable faith.
If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.
Templar.